With me tonight, Dr. Peter McCullough and Dr. Bruce Boros. Now, you may not know who he is, but Dr. Boros has been a trusted heart doctor in the Florida Keys since 1985. Dr. Boros, I have a tweet here that I want to read from 2020, and this probably caused you a little bit of feedback. I am not only a skeptic, I go to American Doctors, speak out on YouTube, major cover-up, grassroots needs to rise up. Maybe everyone should take hydroxychloroquine, 200 milligram, and zinc twice a week and see if our infection rate doesn't drop quickly. I hope to proceed with my ivermectin observational study quickly. This is working where it's being used around the world. Fauci is a fraud. Big Pharma's playing us for suckers. Stay tuned, Dr. Boros. Now, Doc, I got to tell you, that probably didn't go over real well.
Well, you know what? It was quite an eye-opener for me, but I really felt like from my personal experiences, and I'm old school, you know, I became a board-certified cardiologist in 1981, and since that time, I've had a huge practice, started in Miami at Miami Heart Institute and then Mount Sinai Medical Center. I developed an outreach area down here in the Keys for a variety of reasons, mostly that they really needed high quality cardiovascular care, and it exploded. So I've been very blessed to have taken care of many, many generations of what we call conks down here in the Keys, and they trust me, and they've trusted my brand and quality of medicine. So it was really astounding that many people that I took through open heart surgery, valve replacements, all sorts of cardiac critical conditions would actually attack me for making that statement about St. Fauci. And it was actually just briefly late night, and I was really tired, and I was doing a little Facebook ditty. And that's when I said that Fauci is a fraud, because in my experience, and I knew nothing about him, honestly, I knew zero other than what I was starting to learn about him, and the things that he was saying and the things that he was doing were not correlating with what I was experiencing in the real world. And I'm going, this man is not telling the truth. And that's when I put that out. And you'd be surprised of how many people I saved their lives, literally, and they turned on me. The violent nature of people came out because I dared to challenge the narrative.
Well, there you go, and we're glad you did. All right, so yeah. Dr. McCullough, is this, I mean, he's kind of one of us. How did you guys get connected?
Well, Bruce and I connected very early on in the pandemic, trading notes on, what are the best ways to manage patients. And I'm also a cardiologist in Dallas. And so what we had learned now is everything that Dr. Boros just said is true. The House Select Committee on the origins of the coronavirus, issued their final report in the end of 2024. That was Brad Wenstrup, chaired that committee. Essentially, Dr. Fauci is a fraud. And very likely, Fauci approached Biden on getting a preemptive 10-year pardon because Fauci knew he committed crimes. He knew that Biden was probably mentally and physically compromised, and that Biden would sign off on it.
Wow. All right. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about COVID because it's not, while the pandemic isn't here and we're not masking up and doing all the stupid stuff that we had to do, we're still dealing with it. And a lot of you are dealing with it, and a lot of you are dealing with the effects of it. A lot of you are dealing with how do I do it? And this is one thing that we need to get on the table right off the top, is you do not need to feel guilty if you took the vaccine. Get that off your plate. Get that out of your mental place, because you do not need to carry guilt into your recovery. If you took a vaccine, there's a lot. Look, a lot of us were operating on the knowledge that we had from people we thought we could trust. And now, of course, we know better, but now we've got to deal with that. And that's what these gentlemen are going to help us understand. So pay attention. Here we go. Dr. McCullough post here. This is the Joe Rogan clip. You actually made it to Joe Rogan. Listen to what he had to say about Dr. McCullough.
Dr. Peter McCullough is the most published physician in his field in human history. Like, this is a incredibly well-respected doctor up until he took a moral and ethical stand saying that this is not what they're saying, this is not what we should be doing, and then destroyed.
Yeah.
They tried to destroy his career.
He's had a horrible.
It's insane.
Yeah.
But the man has incredible courage, and he was labeled when I would tell people he's the most published physician in time, you'd see their eyes glaze over, like they didn't want to hear it. I'm like, maybe he's right. Well, 5 years later, we know he's right. We know he was right. He was right all along.
You were right all along, Dr. McCullough. I mean, that's what a great endorsement there. Let me just a few days ago. All right. So if you were paying attention, and Dr. McCullough, I'll get you to talk about this. You posted on here, breaking: the medical cartel sues RFK Jr. for pulling COVID shot recommendation for kids and pregnant women, despite the overwhelming evidence of harm. How is it that this is still something they're holding on to and coming after? I don't understand. It's been proven. It doesn't work.
Gene, the world is off its axis right now in the medical orthodoxy. You know, my mom is in a senior living home, I think probably like yours is. And, you know, they haven't even talked about COVID vaccines where she lives for the last 3 years. Why in the world, you know, our medical societies laser focused on children and pregnant women, far healthier than nursing home residents. And they're going so far now in a hyperbolic response to try to sue RFK. All the FDA and CDC did is essentially, restrict their suggestions because children and pregnant women have no medical necessity, no clinical indication, and the harms far outweigh any theoretical benefits.
Dr. Boros, let me talk about you and your practice there in Florida. What are you seeing now when you deal with patients? I mean, are you still dealing with some of the same problems? What is it that we're several years down the road? What is it that you're still seeing coming through your office now?
Well, that's a great question, Gene, because as you opened your kind of mini monologue, we're not done with COVID. We're only in the beginning, really, of COVID and this never-ending barrage of mRNA genetic modifying therapies. This was never a vaccine. And I said that very early on. I was actually in Pensacola talking with Dr. James Thorpe. We were doing a little presentation, who is probably the most renowned individual in dealing with high-risk pregnancies. And at that time, they had already published that 82% of first trimester abortions in women that received a jab were aborting. I mean, it was very frightening, and Jim was all over that. So that was kind of the inception of where we started seeing a lot of problems, which now have extended into long vax injury. You know, what they were calling long COVID is really not. It's vaccine injury. And we can't even call it a vaccine. I hesitate, I kind of choke when I say that word vaccine. This is the biggest fraud that has ever been perpetuated on mankind. We have 17 million people, at least, that have died worldwide from this poison toxin. It's never been used in a person's arm. That's not how you treat respiratory diseases. So what am I actually seeing in real life? I have 3 high-level urgent cares. We see 4,500 patients a month. And I'm seeing a recurrence now of these less virulent variants that are still making people sick. Universally, I say, or we say, my providers, have you been jabbed for COVID before? And the vast majority say, yes, I was fooled, I regret it. But the ones who have received 2, 3, 4 shots, they're getting sick on a frequent basis. But fortunately, we're not dealing with some of the original variants. Like I got Delta, I was really, really sick with Delta and a little bit of the Omicron. But as we all know, that these viruses don't want to kill their hosts. Maybe Bill Gates wants to kill us and Fauci, but the virus itself is less virulent, but we are seeing a recurrence of that. I am seeing people who, from the day that they received their first jab, are not well. They do not feel right. And the more jabs they get, the sicker they remain. And you have to make some kind of an intervention, which is out there. We have things available, but people don't know that they really kind of live with this chronic feeling of not being right, not breathing right, not thinking right, not feeling right. They just, their lives, they're kind of like giving up on it. And I'm, 75, and I never was vaccinated. It's a topic that we'll get to, or jabbed. I am making the spike protein because I picked it up through shedding. But I'm seeing also a lot of cancer, a lot of people who have had 3 or more of these shots, and it's ruining the immune system. It's actually allowing cancers that have been in remission
Right.
for 15, 20 years. We're seeing recurrence of cancers. We're seeing, I don't see pediatrics, but certainly I'm reading, with many of the oncologists out there, young kids, 8 years old with colorectal cancer, 10 years old with pancreatic cancer. We're seeing fetuses with cancers. They're delivered with terminal cancers. And it's all in people who have been jabbed. It's ruining our immune systems.
Let me go back to what you said a minute ago. How many people did you say have died from this?
Well, the VAERS reporting system, we're talking worldwide, they're estimating 17 million. In the United States, we have reports of around, Peter is much better with statistics, I think it's somewhere around 50,000. And then you have to multiply that by a factor of 10 because of underreporting. We in America have probably lost to this poison jab 500,000 people. I think that's a conservative estimate.
Yeah, Dr. McCullough, speaking of the VAERS database, you turned us on to that very early into this, and we started tracking along with you. Then suddenly it was scrubbed and things were changed, and the numbers got kind of squirrely. Do you trust that number?
Well, the VAERS system is very accurate for what's in there, Gene. Now, the problem is it's severely underreported. So if the doctor doesn't have the vaccine card, all the details, and is willing to kind of take the risks in reporting, I have reported to VAERS regularly, including deaths. So what we know, there's about 400 peer-reviewed papers published from VAERS, and what we see in there is very accurate because we only submit cases to VAERS when we know the vaccine caused the problem. I wouldn't bother doing it if, let's say, a patient died of another cause. So as Dr. Boros said, if using VAERS estimates with an underreporting factor conservatively at 30, that puts us at about 560,000 deaths due to the vaccine among Americans. Now a paper from Florida, separate data, Dr. Levi Retzeff, as well as Joel Adepo, they're coming in at around 500,000. So
wow.
This is a tragedy because neither presidential administration will recognize this, and the Americans are furious.
Yeah, and so if those of you who don't know what VAERS is, vaccine adverse effect reporting system, structure, or something.
Right.
Okay, so that's what it is. Well, let me show you this because sometimes the internet really does get it right. Look at this picture. Isn't it interesting that the FDA will recall cucumbers over a salmonella outbreak, but they won't recall the COVID vaccine after millions of deaths are reported? Seems to me to be absolutely 100% correct. If it would be funny if it wasn't so serious and it weren't accurate. So let's get into what we kind of alluded to before I get too much further down the path here. Dr. Boros, you mentioned earlier about, and by the way, those of you watching and you're like, well, tell us how to fix this. We're going to get to that part. We just want to make sure you understand exactly what's happening and how to work. We heard people talk about shedding and the people that were not vaccinated getting the COVID because of this vaccine that was actually shedding. Walk us through that, and is it accurate? Is it truthful?
It's unequivocally true because I'm a victim of it. Shedding is something that has been reported. But Gene, before I get into that, let me just say one thing. Vaccinology is mythology. And when I went through medical school, and you'll hear this over and over again, it was just accepted dogma. There really was not any teaching on it. It was, vaccine's good. everything else bad. And as I've become educated, well educated now, because I've
okay,
spent.
wait, Dr.
Oh, I'm
Boros.
sorry.
Okay, you just
Yeah.
said something massive right there. You're saying they didn't really spend time talking about it in medical school?
No,
Really? Wait,
no.
something we're going to jab every newborn baby with, and elderly kids and elderly, that right there is shocking information.
Gene, let me, if I can say, Stanley Plotkin is the father of vaccinology. And about 6 months ago, there was an article that came out about, quote, vaccinations. And he admitted that vaccines have been given pretty much without any placebo, true placebos, and they never really followed people for more, kids or anybody, for more than roughly 4 to 5 weeks for adverse events. How pathetic is that? And we have had this now crammed down our throats. Vaccine good, everything else not so good, including simple therapies, ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, vitamin D, zinc, very simple and safe things to use. Why? Because we've been basically given propaganda for over 100 years. And
Well,
so we have been brainwashed.
Dr. Boros,
Brainwashed.
listen, we grew up, my generation, I'm not as, I identify as 21, but my body says something different. Okay, enough of that. We went to the doctor when I grew up. You had to be bleeding profusely. Your arm had to be hanging off to go to the doctor. You just didn't do that. And if you went to the hospital, it was because of a car wreck. It wasn't because you had a sinus infection. America has gone from this, I think, just my opinion, I'm not a medical doctor, holistic approach, generally speaking, and over the decades, we've come to this, give me a pill, give me a shot, give me a vaccine to fix it, and whatever's the quickest way. And we really didn't, and I say we, I'm just saying collective we didn't really, some of this is our fault for not pushing for more information, but the medical community is the only community that I think we go into and they say, okay, just tell me what to do and I'll go do it. And this is why Americans are feeling so deceived, betrayed is the better word.
As they should be. I think Dr. McCullough would agree with me that most of our colleagues have shied away significantly from what's happened. This is the biggest embarrassment to a very noble profession, and honoring the Hippocratic Oath kind of went down the drain for a variety of reasons, and I think a lot of it has been monetary.
Yeah. All right. Let me show you this, Dr. McCullough. This the most puzzling. This is Pierre Corey, MD. The most puzzling part of the COVID vaccine's ability to shed and harm those who never got it. A peer-reviewed study just validated the thousands of shedding reports Midwestern Doc evaluated. Speak to that. Why is this still a mystery out there that it's not being talked about more, Dr. McCullough?
Well, I can tell you that I think the most expert person in this field is Dr. Helene Benoun, former INSERM scientist from France, and she's published extensively on this. Both the messenger RNA and the spike protein come out in exosomes, which are little phospholipid packets. They can be exhaled. They clearly come out in body fluids like sweat, as well as in breast milk. The baby gets messenger RNA and the spike protein. That's very unnatural. And chances are for most of us, it occurs about in the first 6 months after someone takes a vaccine, if someone's around them. Very few people taking shots right now. But someone like Dr. Boros, who's around patients, every single day, is going to pick up a lot of exposures to the spike protein. And we can tell that because we measure a blood test, which is the antibodies against the spike protein. It's a proxy to how much spike protein the human body's been exposed to.
And absolutely astounding. All right, so let's talk about. We'll start because I know I need to spend some time on this. Everybody's thinking, okay, so tell me what we need to do. Let's talk about the whole ivermectin. Now suddenly everybody's on the ivermectin train and saying, or I say everybody, a lot of people are applauding ivermectin for the benefits of that. at the risk of being obvious, Dr. Boros, why was this pushed away? Why did we not embrace it? Was there no money to be made in it?
Actually, it was pretty much banned. It was touted by Anthony Fauci as, quote, I believe a miracle drug, along with hydroxychloroquine with SARS-CoV-1. However, ivermectin's been around for a very long time. It's one of the safest drugs that we've used, medications that we've used. The problem is that you can't get an emergency utilization authorization for a new therapy if there's something on the market that is safe, effective, low cost, and there's observational information that it's helpful. And if there is nothing else out there, according to the Helsinki Accord of 1964, doctors should feel very free during a pandemic or a crisis to be able to use off-label or safe medications that have been designated for one thing, to use it in an attempt to calm down a pandemic. So if in fact they had allowed ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine to be used, there would never have been, quote, this vaccine, which was a huge moneymaker touted by Bill Gates, Fauci, Big Pharma, and unfortunately, I'll say it, it was initiated by our Department of Defense, which has been involved with testing a lot of biological weapons on Americans over many years.
Okay, that's a big statement. Okay, I gotta get people well here. Let me show you, Dr. McCullough. Watch this video about a ivermectin paste. Watch.
We've been using this on her skin for about 4 days now, almost a week, and it has completely cleared up her skin. Take a look at what she looked like before we started using ivermectin. It's cleared her up in less than a week. Clear skin.
All right, Dr. McCullough, explain now that I want you to talk about the benefits of ivermectin here as well. I need, what does it actually do in the body, so our people at home that need to take this drug can understand exactly what it does?
Well, ivermectin, originally was developed as an anti-parasitic drug. So parasites, particularly the ones that are in water that cause river blindness, it was very effective for. And we used it for scabies, which is a skin infection with little organisms. And then the big breakthrough was in COVID. Remember, ivermectin, got in the McCullough protocol in late 2020. And one of my original authors, John McKinnon, a infectious disease doctor at Henry Ford in Detroit, he was telling me early in 2020, so listen, they're working with it in Honduras, it's working. I said, there's not enough data. But when we had the ICON study done in Florida, where ivermectin given to patients with COVID, cut mortality rate in half. So what it does is it uniquely blocks the effect of the spike protein on the surface of the virus. It blocks the virus from entering the nucleus of the cell, and actually modifies the cell's own what's called innate immunity. It's receptors on its surface to fight off organisms. Now we've learned, as that video is demonstrating, that it has other anti-infective properties to it. And so because it's so safe, it's safer than Tylenol, with any disaster like this, there is bound to be discovery. And so in many ways, we've discovered the multi-purpose nature of ivermectin.
So should should healthy people take ivermectin or have that in their medicine cabinet? Dr. McCullough?
They should definitely have it in their medicine cabinet. I don't think healthy people per se, it would have a benefit. Now, we used it extensively during acute COVID, and we're finding a use for it in these long COVID syndromes and vaccine injury syndromes. I personally believe when we believe that there's recurrent SARS-CoV-2 replication, and recently Dr. Zabalos in Brazil has demonstrated that the GI tract may be a chronic reservoir for SARS-CoV-2 or the COVID virus, but those with skin infections, headaches, persistent pulmonary findings, now understanding how to use ivermectin, I'll put someone on ivermectin for about 90 days, along with our other approaches to long COVID to help knock out the infection. But people should, certainly not be afraid of ivermectin. And in the Wellness Company, we actually offer it as an offering in our medical emergency kits.
All right, Doc, talk to us about this book you've got coming out. That's out.
Well, just as Dr. Boros mentioned, our new book is Vaccines, Mythology, Ideology, and Reality. They're not taught to us in medical school with any type of, equipoise. We're simply told they're safe and effective and that there's a schedule. And what we've done is a deep dive with historian John Leake. Now, we went back to the very beginning and worked our way through smallpox, through diphtheria, pertussis, tetanus, measles, mumps, rubella, and then on to polio, and then the modern era. And as Dr. Boros said, sadly, what's happened with vaccines is we've entered an era of what John Leake has called biowarfare. It starts out with the 2005 PrEP Act going forward, that vaccines are actually now part of national defense in order to try to protect against, a biological threat.
All right, the book is on Amazon. If you're interested in that, get it. I think I'm going to get that, Doc. I need to get one. All right, we're going to take a break. We come back, we're going to talk about some things that you can do. What can you do to combat the effects of these vaccines in your body? We'll be right back after this.
The War Room is calling. Join the Flashpoint War Room, a powerful community of believers standing together in prayer, unity, and bold support. Get exclusive updates on what God is doing right now through this movement. Stand in faith, stand for truth, and stand with Flashpoint as we press into what God is doing in this season. Whether you're a pastor, intercessor, or a passionate viewer, this is your call to action. Go to fparmy.com and join the War Room today.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Gene Bailey. You're watching Flashpoint.
It's official. Flashpoint is now 4 nights a week. You can catch us every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. More news, more encouragement, more opportunities to stand for truth. Don't miss a moment.
What you guys do, it's immeasurable.
Make sure you go online and share this with all of your friends, your family, even people you don't know.
Flashpoint, always to the right of center.
It's breathtaking. A tsunami of darkness threatens to wash away all we hold dear if we don't act now. In Killing America, Turning the Tide on the Tsunami of Darkness, Gene and Terry Bailey bring hope, help, and chart a course that leads to America's restoration and renewal. Don't wait. Get your copy at killingamericabook.com and counter the tsunami of darkness with a deluge of everlasting light.
All right, we're back talking with Dr. Peter McCullough and Dr. Bruce Boros about your body, vaccines, and how to get rid of what we have called long COVID or COVID injury. Let's talk about, Dr. McCullough, we're seeing more come to fruition with the ivermectin combined with mebendazole. Did I say that right? Mebendazole? How does that work, and what does this cocktail do?
At the Wellness Company, we've combined them in a fixed dose, ivermectin, mebendazole, so it works terrifically for a parasite cleanse. If people picked up parasites from their pets or from eating sushi or going camping, and they're usually GI syndromes that are cleared with a parasite cleanse. Now, the big news is that many patients, under the care of their oncologist, with cancer, they're using this actually as an additional cancer treatment. And with ivermectin, there are multiple preclinical studies showing it has anti-cancer mechanisms, and that with mebendazole, another antiparasitic drug, there's actually clinical data there. So I think the National Cancer Institute should do large-scale studies of ivermectin and mebendazole to determine what cancers, are best treated with this as an adjunctive approach.
Dr. Boros, you've had experience with this as well, haven't you?
I'm sorry, was that a question to me, Gene?
Yes. Yeah, you've had experience with this. Explain.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think Dr. McCullough is absolutely right. Unfortunately, our government hasn't made any steps in either helping start studies on the vaccine injured. There's been very little reparations made to people that have been injured relative to compensation programs. And it's the silence and the lack of interest in this is deafening. Relative to cancer, I can tell you that ivermectin in combination with fenbendazole, and it's looking like it's about 1 milligram per kilogram body weight daily, along with some fenbendazole, about 1,000 milligrams a day, which are veterinary medicines, have been used forever with our animals, and that's where a lot of the propaganda, censorship was occurring, are absolutely being shown to reduce or cure, actually, cancers like glioblastomas of the brain, thyroid cancers, lymphomas, pancreatic cancers. A lot of these cancers we're seeing now are called turbo cancers. So it's a name that's been given to these very aggressive cancers that are occurring in people that have received multiple mRNA shots. And usually by the third shot, their immune system is paralyzed. It's not reacting appropriately. Many of our genetic protective mechanisms have been turned off. There's a lot of DNA particle material contaminating these jabs that has been shown to be reversed into our own genome, our own human DNA. Wow. It's affecting other stranding and structures of the chromosomes. And what we're seeing is people developing metastatic stage 3, stage 4 cancers. Wow. And within 4 to 6 months, they're dead. And the oncologists, the oncology business is $520 billion annually in the United States of America. 60% of the dollars that oncologists make are relative to treating cancers with chemotherapeutic agents. And many of them, I'm not saying that we haven't been able to cure, particularly some childhood cancers, but most people who wind up with metastatic cancers, they have a long, drawn-out, unpleasant course. And I happen to be friends with a doctor in Canada, and I will say his name, if you don't mind, Dr. William Makis. And he was on my radio show, and Bill has been spending an enormous amount of time with people around the world who have been consulting him relative to their cancers, and these people are stage 3, stage 4, highly aggressive cancers, and the results that the patients are reporting back in serial emails showing their progress, the diminution in their cancer markers, the actual imaging of PET scans, CAT scans showing reduction in tumor size, and in many cases, the actual clearing of metastatic lesions. Ivermectin and fenbendazole have multiple pathways where they shut off the ability of cancer cells, not normal cells, but cancer cells to divide and multiply. There's multiple mechanisms with both of these drugs.
Amazing. All right, Dr. McCullough, tell us about the Wellness Company. There's a lot of stuff you guys are producing out there. I just want to say, we're a fan of the Wellness Company. You go over to twc.health, and they can use, if you want to get a discount, you can use code FLASH. And the great people over there have helped us, are helping you get better. So let's talk about the detox first. Doc, I'm always harping on that because so many people have written to us and said, thank you for this because of what we've taken. It's gotten better, and they're feeling better. So explain again what happens when they take this detox.
Most widely used approach is copyrighted McCullough protocol base spike protein detoxification. It's the combined use of 3 natural products in high doses nattokinase, bromelain, and curcumin. You don't have to remember all that because you just have to remember Ultimate Spike Detox from the Wellness Company. Go to www.twc.health and then use /flash, and you'll get the discount from Flashpoint. But the Ultimate Spike Detox, 2 capsules twice a day on an empty stomach under doctor's supervision. Patients who have blood clots and other serious problems, I often advance to 4 capsules twice a day on an empty stomach. You're delivering high-dose nattokinase. Nattokinase is the lead product that dissolves the spike protein, the ingredient that dissolves the spike protein. So now we're up to 16,000 units a day of nattokinase. It was discovered by the Japanese, used extensively in Asia. It has a favorable effect on blockages, so it's anti-atherosclerotic. And what I tell people is, listen, go a year on this, and if well tolerated, continue it indefinitely, because we don't know what's going to happen with this pandemic. We're seeing the blood test to the spike protein come down. Patients get better, typically at the 6 to 9 month juncture. Blood clots dissolve, and thankfully people get out of this, avoiding any major damage to the body. So go to the Wellness Company and get the Ultimate Spike Detox.
Okay, Dr. McCullough, on this, I'm going to ask some questions that people would ask. Do I need to be concerned about any interactions or side effects with other drugs or medications if I'm to take this?
Main thing to be concerned about is bleeding. So people on blood thinners, make sure you check with your doctor. Now, under my supervision, I have patients on serious blood thinners like Eliquis or Xarelto, Pradaxa, or even warfarin, and I use the Ultimate Spike Detox in my practice under direct observation and do that safely. Patients also who have had heart stents in, who have on aspirin and another drug called clopidogrel. Again, it's just a caveat. Bleeding is the caveat, and we can adjust the dose down, and we stop it if the bleeding resolves. I've treated thousands of patients now, Gene. I haven't had a serious bleeding event that's required a transfusion. I had one gentleman with liver disease who had a bleeding event, was hospitalized, but treated thousands of patients successfully. And the National Institutes of Health has no protocol. They have no suggestions for what America can do. Thank goodness the Wellness Company stepped up and produced the Ultimate Spike Detox.
All right, so Dr. Boros, look at this. I'm going to play this clip for you. This is Alex Clark of Turning Point. This is what she said during a chronic disease roundtable. She lights it up. Watch.
In 1985, newborn millennials had to follow a schedule of just a handful of vaccines. Today, a child following the recommended vaccine schedule will receive up to 70 shots by the time they turn 18, including 27 before he or she turns 2, and as many as 6 shots in a single visit. Are all these shots producing healthier kids? According to the data, no. Are we allowed to even ask? Also, no. Some parents who've asked too many questions about the recommended vaccine schedule can find themselves reported to Child Protection Services. Or they will get kicked out of their pediatrician's office for not being compliant. This is America, the land of the free. Parents are being held hostage. They did not sign up to co-parent with the government. We want a divorce.
Now, what happened at the end of that, Dr. Boros, people went crazy, applauding, stood up in this whole thing, because this is, I think that what Alex was expressing is the feeling that most Americans are feeling like, wait a minute, we don't want you meddling in our health care when you don't even know what necessarily you're doing. And it seems to be so directed by profit margins. Please speak to this with our child care,
Absolutely.
Dr. Boros.
I said I'm 75. I remember maybe getting a polio vaccine and smallpox, and that was it. And here I am at 75. I can still drive the ball 240 or 50 yards and walk the course. What we're seeing now, I would encourage everybody to read the book Turtles All the Way Down, particularly parents, to understand no childhood vaccine has ever been tested against a placebo. And all we're doing here, once a big pharma in 1986 with the PrEP Act, they were given immunity. And so they've run wild with doing whatever they wanted to do. And we're going to vaccinate ourselves out of every single problem. And I even joke about we're going to vaccinate ourselves out of hemorrhoids. Okay. So I think that we're in a really serious situation. And anybody who is questioning this gravy train, this money train that produces billions and billions of dollars for the pharmaceutical company has been censored. I've been in Facebook jail 16 times. It's horrible in trying to get the word out. And I appreciate the format that you're doing and Peter's work and a number of other truth tellers. But they must read this book, Turtles All the Way Down. It is absolutely incredible and understanding for parents. Do not get these jabs. And actually, many people now are absolutely committed to saying no mRNA jabs, none at all. Do not do this to your kids, particularly in groups. We don't know what happens when you attack the immune system in a very young infant. For the first few years of life, we are giving them an unmitigated amount of toxins. And it's not so much, there's mRNA, but there's other things in there like mercury. A lot of mercury is out of it now, but aluminum, highly toxic to the brain. These are really, it's a disaster. And I just have this article that I'd like to mention out of Brownstone Institute. It's called The Plot to Get RFK. And this is, people are going to start seeing an unrelenting attack on RFK because he is a bit of a disruptor, and he certainly is going to be facing a lot of challenges. They're planning through this it's called the Biotechnology Innovation Organization, and what they're doing is they held a whistleblower blew the goods on the fact that they're spending $2 million to discredit RFK and his approach to wanting to have real science examine everything that's on the market, particularly for children. We're in a desperate state. We are killing our children. We are injuring our children. The autism rate is 1 in 16 now. It's almost unheard of when I was younger that a child might show some kind of peculiar signs. We are injuring our kids. We are injuring and destroying our future of America. We need to stop, put a full stop. Why there is not a full stop and why they are allowing just recently, another COVID booster to come out that hasn't even been tested against any placebo, only tested against the previous COVID vaccine, which has known detrimental side effects. It's deleterious, it's dangerous. The benefits do not outweigh the enormous risk of taking this so-called technology. It's not a vaccine. Right. I can't say that enough.
Okay, so I have a question though. When we were talking about childhood vaccines, I got a couple of questions here I want to talk about. Number one, it seems like there's no, you're in the hospital, you have your baby, and then they just automatically just go do all these vaccines unless you stop it. Where's the governing body? Is there a governing body that says, no, you can't do this, or this is approved, or this is not approved? Dr. McCullough, is there a body of medical professionals that oversees that, or is it just up to the doctor? How does that work?
The CDC controls it. The governing body is called ACIP, the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices. Now, RFK has just changed out that committee, but the new committee just went ahead and voted for all the same vaccines to be given. Our concern is that in a sense, a medical religion has formed around vaccines. And that's what we highlight in our
absolutely.
Book. This idea of mythology and ideology. This goes on for a long time, hundreds of years. Doctors had blind faith in vaccines. And so more and more vaccines have been piled on. We don't have threats from diphtheria, pertussis, tetanus. We don't have those threats anymore. Many of these vaccines can be retired. The World Council for Health right now is calling for a full stop in vaccination. Give vaccines later in life. They're far safer and given separately, not during a critical time of brain development for children.
All right, well, let me show you this. This is what's happening in Japan. Watch.
Japan has done really some actions which are not followed by a lot of the other Western advanced health economies. But when they noticed this rash of deaths in the 70s, they saw what they did is they raised the age of vaccination to 2 years old. Guess what happened? When they did that, infant deaths disappeared. So you have a country who noticed the signal, did something about it, and actually solved the problem. Neonatal mortality decreased.
Okay, so, that kind of says everything to me, Dr. Boros. What do you think?
I think it's absolute. The science that we are coming out with now, because of people like you, podcasters, freedom of speech, allowing us to put our truthful opinions out there. People like Dr. McCullough, who is constantly bringing up scientific data, which is proving that these shots, these jabs are extremely harmful. A recent Japanese study also showed it was like 80 million people, I believe, Dr. McCullough can correct me, and they showed that for every time the person got an mRNA jab, the death rate went up, and it occurred sooner. With each jab that a person got, the spike deaths went up, and they occurred quicker, meaning that the body was reacting sooner with an adverse, detrimental, harmful reaction to receiving these. The data is overwhelming. And for there not to be a full stop on these right now has me very worried. I was extremely hopeful that RFK would come in. But how can you have the FDA head, Dr. Marty Makary, making these blanket statements that we are not going to let another vaccine, quote unquote, come out without a full evaluation? And right under his nose, the Spikevax just came out, okay, for infants 6 months old to 17.
Wow.
And the list of, quote, high risk items, our kids are so overweight, that's a high risk thing. So there is really going to be very little change, in my opinion, in terms of the jabbing that is going to continue to go on, because there's financial incentives for doctors and healthcare providers to put these jabs in people's arms, and they will not stop, many of them, because their livelihoods depend upon it.
Okay.
Horrific to say, but it's true.
It is true. It is true. All right, but it's not just the jabs. There's a whole other part of this that we're just going to just barely have time to touch on. Watch this. This is RFK talking about what's really poisoning American children. Watch.
Cancer rates are skyrocketing in the young and old. Young adult cancers are up 79%, and 1 in 4 American women is on antidepressant medication. 40% of teens have a mental health diagnosis. 15% of high schoolers are on Adderall. And 500,000 American children are on SSRIs. No other country has anything like this. So what's causing all of this suffering? I'll name 2 culprits. First and worst is ultra-processed foods. 70% of American children's diets is now ultra-processed, which means industrial manufactured in a factory. These foods consist primarily of processed sugar, ultra-processed grain, and seed oils. There are thousands of scientists who invent new chemicals to make our food more addictive. And these ingredients didn't exist 100 years ago. Humans are not biologically adapted to eat them. Hundreds of these chemicals are now banned in Europe, but they are ubiquitous in American processed foods. We are literally poisoning our children systematically for profit. The second culprit is toxic chemicals in our food, our medicine, and our environment. Pesticides, food additives, pharmaceutical drugs, and toxic waste permeate every cell in our bodies. This assault on our children's cells and hormones is unrelenting. They are swimming around in a toxic soup. And to name just one problem, many of these chemicals increase estrogen because young children are ingesting so many of these hormone disruptors. America's fertility rate has now dropped. Sperm counts in teens are about 50% of what they were a couple of generations ago, and testosterone rates have dropped in the same rate. American puberty rates among our little girls is now 10 to 13 years of age. Our country has the earliest puberty rate of any continent. This is 6 years younger than it was in 1900. This is not normal. Breast cancer is also estrogen-driven and now strikes 1 in 8 women. We are mass poisoning all of our children and all of our adults.
This is, Dr. McCullough, this is frightening when you hear those statistics.
It is. Kennedy's raising an alarm bell, although America is not much different than Europe and the rest of the westernized world. All of these chronic childhood diseases have been linked to excessive vaccination, poor diets, lack of exercise, and then the food supply, being less high quality over time and more heavily processed. But it's the total package. It's what was called total toxic load on the children are making them less healthy. And, one by one, RFK is working through these exposures, trying to make things better. But you know what? Parents have to make better choices. I never worried about food dyes in my kids because I didn't have my kids eating Skittles or Fruit Loops. So, parents can make healthy choices, stay away from these processed food, and I think they can defer on vaccination. We can turn these things around pretty quickly.
Dr. Boros, what we've talked about tonight in all of this, which we've still barely touched anything in an hour, is that I think all of America is beginning to understand, if they haven't, maybe they do now after watching this program, you have to take responsibility for your own health. You must not rely on pharmaceutical companies or doctors that are being swayed by pharmaceutical companies. You must listen to sound reason and judgment, but do your own research. So as we begin to wrap up, Dr. Boros, I'll let you go first. Give me a 2-minute wrap up on what we should do next.
I appreciate 2 minutes. I need 2 weeks, though, Gene, to really get everything out. I mean, it's horrific to me what I'm seeing. I start every one of my posts, almost every single one, with public disfavor. Okay, we cannot trust these regulatory boards. We cannot trust, unfortunately, so many aspects of what's going on right now in our daily lives. I would like to say that relative to the older individuals, I picked up the shedding. I make spike protein, and I have a very high titer, and I went on the ultimate spike detox. I want the older people and almost everybody to know I went on it, and 1 week after I went on it, I was having some difficulty grabbing some words. I wasn't as responsive as quickly, but people can't pick that up in a doctor. Let's say I can substitute. 1 week after I started the spike detox, ultimate spike detox, I called Peter like at 10 o'clock at night. I was walking my dog. I said, Peter, I'm back. I've been on it for 6 months. People cannot expect their titers to go down. You cannot turn off the ability to make the spike protein. It's built into this jab. There's many things that have been purposely put in there that are harming and hurting people. I think we need a full stop. We need a moratorium. The food and all these other things that RFK is talking about, these are long-term things. They don't kill people overnight. We have sudden deaths within 3 days in prime athletes after getting jabbed. We have a real crisis going on, and we need to address it. And people need to protect themselves and not just follow along with what the narrative is that's coming out in publications, in the press. They're attacking RFK. They are attacking anybody who is not meeting the monetary goals that Big Pharma and our government wanted to see, particularly under Biden.
Okay, that's a mouthful. All right, Dr. McCullough, you got about a minute and a half to wrap it up for us.
Yeah, I concur with Dr. Boros. The COVID-19 vaccines need to come off the market. No one should take one at this point in time. Very few people are taking COVID-19 shots. The COVID-19 vaccines are the big, the elephant in the room. People need to understand these are harmful. Harm has been done. Everybody who's taking a vaccine should get on the ultimate spike detox from the wellness company, unless there's a contraindication. Get on this and stay on it. Start to remove that spike protein from the body. Young parents ought to carefully consider deferring on vaccination at this point in time. And you can catch up later on. It's far safer to give them later, fewer of them. But this total burden of vaccines children are receiving likely is a risk factor for ADHD and autism spectrum disorder. And I agree with Dr. Boros. People need to do their own research in order to have a healthy, lifespan ahead of them. And making America healthy again is largely going to be up to the individual, not up to Trump or RFK.
That's right. All right. So as we wrap up here, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard from these two doctors. Thank you, Dr. Boros, and thank you, Dr. McCullough, as always, for bringing us the truth. But let me say this to those of you watching. You've heard it time and time again from Dr. McCullough over the years, and now you're hearing it from Dr. Boros as well. You must take responsibility for your own health. No longer can we just wait and expect someone else to do it, or the government's going to take care of you, or this is good for you, otherwise it wouldn't be on the market. Listen, those days, our eyes have been open. We need to take care. And I love the fact that these guys are talking about the fact, if you're a new parent or about to be a new parent, seriously reconsider vaccines. Do your own research, find out. And mostly, everybody watching on this show needs to go to twc.health, use code FLASH for your discount on your checkout, and get started taking care of your own health. Because listen, if it's not up to you and me, somebody else is going to take care of it, and we don't want you around for a long time. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Go get those books. Share this on Facebook, all your social media. Tag a friend. We need to get the word out. America can be healthy again, will be healthy again, but it's up to you and me and good gentlemen in the profession like the doctors. We'll see you next time.